Welcome to the Upshot, Multi-World Disc Golf's podcast about the latest in the disc golf world. He is Josh Mansfield. I am Charlie Eisenhood, and we are going to be breaking down a bunch of topics today. Open at Belton. We're going inside the circle. We've got our over-under. We've got our picks for Belton. And we're also going to start right now by talking about a little look ahead to the Champions Cup. We are about a month out from the first major of the year. An April major, Josh. It gets the juices flowing. It's like, because here's the thing. In golf, you got the Masters, right? And you start to hear the little jingle on ESPN when they're like playing the promos during, the advertising breaks. And I just love the Masters. It's so great. It's such a great way to kick off the springtime. It makes me feel like the weather is warming up. And now we're going to have that in disc golf. And that's awesome. Yeah. I hope that they are able to maintain a springtime major of some kind always, because I'm a little worried because next year it's set to be up at Toboggan, this same tournament. And it makes me think, are they going to try to put it in the summer? And are we going to have like a bunch of stuff in the summer all packed together? I don't know. We haven't seen a schedule yet, but I'm certainly happy, at least for this first year. It's going to be at W.R. Jackson at the IDGC in Appling, Georgia. And, we're going to get some woods disc golf for a major for 4 rounds, and everybody's going to be there. All the Europeans are coming, like all of them. There's a few more guys who are still about to come over, and they're going to start playing at Texas State's. And then we're basically going to have like a world's level field at the Champions Cup. So that's awesome. And so, Josh, I guess as we only have one more Elite Series event before the Champions Cup. It's Texas State's. Otherwise, it's all Silver Series. Mm-hmm. So this is an opportunity to take a look ahead. I know we've only had a couple events so far this season, but guess what? I mean, the major's almost here. Who do you think is in a position to go and win this tournament in a month and take down the first major of the year? Because this, I know it feels a little out of the normal rhythm, but like it's major time, like very soon.
It's major time. Oh yeah. I mean, we're talking about USDGC way earlier than this. I think it's very, very fitting to begin to look and kind of discuss this. I mean, well, look, I'd be amiss if I didn't just lead off the bat and say I think Paul McBeth is in the best shape to win this tournament, and I don't know who to pick in the MPO field behind him. I don't know who is playing well enough and has demonstrated the kind of consistency necessary for me to feel comfortable picking them to win a major. Like even Luke Humphreys. Sorry, man. Like this feels to me like it's McBeth's major to lose. And I haven't felt that way about a major in a while. Certainly not last year.
Even when he's still showing up and playing great.
Yes.
I mean, he was unquestionably the best major player last year.
But you had players around him in the regular tournaments
playing
that
better.
Felt like they were capable of winning. Like Ricky.
Eagle. No doubt about it.
This year, I think that Paul McBeth has not only played to a level that matches previous year's Paul McBeth when he was at his elite form, but nobody else is rising to the occasion. Eagle's hurt, Calvin can't putt, Ricky's still getting used to the new bag, Chris is good but hasn't been in contention, Kevin has not been in or close in contention. Gannon Burr had good first tournament, bad second tournament, Drew took second tournament off. Like, who's next? Luke Humphreys is number 1 in the tour standings. And don't get me wrong. I think Luke Humphreys is a awesome guy and could play really well here. But if you asked me to put money on McBeth or Luke Humphreys,
we don't even need to go down that path.
Yeah. What path? There's no path. There is none. You see that side and move down the McBeth path.
So it's hard to disagree. So let's take a look at the last time we've seen big tournaments on these courses. Okay. So this was the site of the Disc Golf Hall of Fame Classic, which was the National Tour finale in 2018 and 2019, and in past seasons as well. But there was no NT finale. There was no NT at all in 2020 because of COVID, and then last year, the NT finale was in Nashville, not at WR Jackson. So in 2019, the last time we saw this tournament, it was won by Calvin Heimberg. He beat Adam Hammes in a playoff. Now, notably, there are a lot of big names that did not show up to this event. No Macbeth, no Eagle, no Ricky. Just straight off the top right there. The highest rated player in the field was Chris Dickerson. And then Simon Lizotte and Nate Sexton, and then Calvin Heimberg, who ended up winning. So if you look at 2018, when there were more players in the field, Macbeth won by a stroke over Greg Barsby. And 18, that was the year Barsby won World, so he was in just tremendous form at that time.
Yep, that's correct.
Eagle was in a tie for third, 6 shots back of Macbeth. Dickerson, 7 shots back. Ricky was in 7th, 9 shots back. Kevin Jones, 11 shots back. So lots of big names up at the top, but Macbeth did get the job done with a 1-stroke win over Greg Barsby. So even if you think about the historical performance, it feels like Macbeth has a great chance because he's proven that he can play well here and obviously everywhere, but he can do it through the woods. I think we saw that at Waco this weekend. His scramble game is really on point right now. The putting looks really sharp. I got to be honest. I don't know who else I can pick at this moment right now today.
Right.
Maybe by the time we make official picks, maybe I'll change my mind. If we see something over these next few weeks, we got a lot of golf, of course, until WR Jackson, but I'm going to need to see more from some other players. And, I like, Drew Gibson, right? The other player who's kind of stood out the early part of the season. I'm not going to pick him to win on that course. Sorry. That's not where he's going to shine with his game. What about on the FPO side?
The FPO side, I think, is a lot harder. Because you have, in my opinion, 2 players who have been standout this season, and that's Katrina Allen and Kristen Tatar. I think those two, they've been the most consistent, and Paige obviously having the better finish and being in contention for the win at Las Vegas, but I think Waco is a better representation. Not even the best. Texas State's is going to be the best representation, and if we look historically, that does not bode well for Paige. But Waco is a better representation than LVC, and so I'm going to give more credit to Kristen Tatar's second at Waco than I am Paige's second at LVC. Even if, Kristen wasn't in contention in either case necessarily when it came down to the final couple holes. Even final hole, a full hole 18. It was hole 17 that really took Kristen out. That being said, I am willing, though, there are a couple other contenders who feel like they have shown us enough success that I could consider them being as important. Paige being one of them. The other, though, is Valerie Mondahano. I don't think this tournament, I don't think you can ignore her. I'm interested to see how she plays at Texas State's, but very similar styles of golf. It's line shaping, it's difficult woods. The only thing, and correct me if I'm wrong, but WR Jackson has a little bit of elevation, doesn't it? Some of those holes are kind of longer, par fours that are pretty...
It's like classic line shaping woods disc golf, not in like a sort of brutalist, like you have to get lucky and miss trees, but more like you need to shape your shot appropriately. And yeah, there's some really long, difficult holes through the woods.
Yeah. So the Texas courses I've seen for the most part are pretty flat. I'm interested to see how the length and elevation at WR Jackson affects Valerie, but I think Valerie has to be a outside contender for the win that needs to be considered.
Well, you think about how much has changed since the last time the Elite Tour stopped here.
Oh, yeah.
In FPO. First of all, there were no European players at these tournaments, that the NT finales. And there were, 20 player fields, basically. Things have changed a lot. Now, if you look at 2019 and 2018, same three names at the top both times. Katrina Page and Sarah Hokom. In 2019, Sarah Hokom wins by 4 strokes over Paige Pierce, with Katrina Allen another 5 shots back of Pierce. In 2018, Katrina won by 8 strokes over Paige Pierce. So, but it shouldn't come as a surprise that those were the top 3 players, given that they were like way far and away the best 3 players in the division in 2018 and 2019. Right. Now, you could include the European women in those conversations as well, but they weren't there. And even in 2018, like they were not yet quite relevant on the sort of like competitive international scene at that point. So now, obviously, Valerie Mondahano, she didn't play in these tournaments. I think she was still like playing juniors or AMs. You have like players like Ella Hansen, all of the growth in the division. I mean, we're going to see a much bigger field, obviously, at Champions Cup. I mean, I actually want to see if I can pull up right now. Let's see what the current event page shows us in terms of registration. There's 100 players in MPO and there's 40 in FPO. So it's like almost double in terms of size. And, you now have a lot more players involved than we did back in 2018, 2019. Did Haley King even play in these tournaments? Haley King DNF'd in 2019, did not play in 2018. Haley King, by the way, is another player that you cannot overlook in the woods. She dominated Texas States last year. She could play great at this tournament.
She also shot a record-breaking round at GMC.
That's right. And so when you think about that, and you also add in Tatar and Salonen, who was just unbelievable with the line shaping off the tee. Now, obviously, she's got to fix the putter by then if she wants to have a chance to win over 4 rounds. Hannah Blomroos. What about Owen Scoggins? Missy Gannon is playing at a significantly higher level than we've ever seen her play back in 3 years ago. You mentioned Valerie Mondahano. What about Heather Young? This is the kind of situation where Heather Young could stand out. I just think this is going to be fascinating. Macy Vela Diaz, it's just a lot more competitive. And you could say the same thing about MPO, but I just think that, as we've mentioned, it feels like Macbeth is the clear front runner right now, given the performance last year at the majors and given what we've seen so far this season. But I do think you're right. Texas State's is kind of the perfect last Elite Series stop to give us okay, bellwether tournament. Who's going to feel comfortable line shaping in the woods?
Music City Open is going to be well attended, but it is missing Macbeth notably on the MPO side. So if Macbeth comes into Texas State's and just obliterates the field, if he plays well or wins the Open at Belton and then goes to Texas State and wins, if he wins both of them, I don't know how you pick anybody else. I really, really don't. And because at that point he steps off and you just don't see him again until Champions Cup. And I would not want to be in the MPO field going into this major knowing Macbeth wins 4 in a row and then steps away to go get ready for this major.
Last year, Texas State's, Ricky won it, Matt Oram in second, Chris Dickerson, then Macbeth, then Heimberg. It sounds like a plausible top 5 for Champions Cup. Haley King, Holly Finley, Rebecca Cox were your top 3 in FPO. Holly Finley, dark horse candidate. Should be a lot of fun. Looking forward to the tournament. Obviously, we'll talk about it more as we get a little bit closer. We've got Silver Series this weekend, Open at Belton. We're going to talk about that in just a moment. Then we've got Texas State's. Then we have 2 more Silver Series leading up to that Champions Cup. And those tournaments are Music City Open, as you mentioned, and Open at Tallahassee. So some stops along the way for players who want to, get in some extra rounds before they head out to WR Jackson. And that kind of concludes the first chunk of the season. A lot of European players at that point will head back to Europe. Some will stick around and will start to make the move towards the West Coast. And then, U.S. Women's is kind of the next big stop on the calendar in late June, and then players heading over to Europe for the European Open in mid-July. So let's talk about Open at Belton. This is an interesting stop, Josh, because it's very close to Waco. It's like just down the road, like an hour. It is, as a result, I think, very well attended. This was easily the strongest field of any of the Silver Series tournaments in 2021. Looks like it's going to set up well for that again this year. And in fact, I looked this up, courtesy of Statmando. They have a way of ranking the field strength of tournaments. And if you look at last year, you know, your number one tournament was Worlds. Your number two tournament was USDGC. All right. Number three was Ledgestone. These are the typical things that you'd expect to see up at the top. So you got to go down the ways a little bit, and you find Belton, 19th place. The only tournaments ahead of it were NTs and majors. It was actually ahead of two NT stops. The Des Moines Challenge, which remember came right after Worlds, and the Delaware Disc Golf Challenge, which combination of timing on the calendar and just like event not really feeling like it deserved Elite Series status was not particularly well attended. So Belton actually had a better field than two Elite Series stops last year. And it's a very scoreable course. They have some interesting elements on the course and some designed greens. They've added a new one this year, Josh. It's got like a little ramp almost with like a bump that you could like you could theoretically throw a roller and it would hit the ramp and it would like bounce into the basket. I don't know if people are really going to be into that, but like it is theoretically possible that we could see skip shots or rollers that go into the basket off of this ramp. It's definitely like a little bit like mini golf-esque, but it's definitely something different.
Hey, Belton, Winthrop's calling. They want their gimmicks back.
I'm not gonna lie, it's the first thing I thought of too.
It's odd. It's interesting because if you showed up to Ledgestone and they had this ramp on one of their holes, the pros would be like, "What the heck is this? What Nate? What's going on? Like, why is this here?" But because it's a Silver Series, and with how dramatic the MPO side finished last year and how exciting the tournament was, no one cares. Like, everyone's like, "Oh, wow, what an awesome Silver Series. I can't wait to watch it." So, you know, I think that by virtue of being a Silver Series, it kind of gets a pass a little bit to get away with things like this. And we're still excited about it because we want to watch golf. And so we're just happy that there's some tournament to be on. Maybe it's also because it's close to the off season. And so we're still have the time and the energy to consume as much golf as possible. Maybe late season, we wouldn't be quite as forgiving for this nonsense.
This was a fantastic tournament last year, if you recall.
It was.
We had big down the stretch battles on both FPO and MPO sides. In FPO, Katrina Allen and Heather Young were going, toe to toe down the stretch. And Katrina Allen actually didn't end up winning the tournament until hole 18. Heather Young a little out of position and just didn't have the distance to get up to the green. She had a putt to force a playoff, but couldn't put it in. It was from like probably 50, 60 feet. And Katrina Allen tapped in to get the one-stroke win. And this was last year's vintage Ricky Paul battle. And it was awesome. I mean, it was really awesome. Yeah. Like, back and forth, crazy birdie fest. Ricky shot a 47, tied for the best round of the weekend with Calvin Heimberg. It was 1096 rated. And, I mean, he just could not stop birdieing. It was like a sight to behold. In fact, he gave a stroke away, missing like a 20-footer that you never see him miss. And it was a battle all the way down to the wire, and Ricky ended up winning by 2 strokes. And we just didn't really get that much last year. So it was kind of a fun throwback. And, honestly, it won't shock me if we see something like that again, because the scoring opportunities are everywhere on this course. There's not necessarily tons of separation. I could imagine that we would just see those top players like Paul, Ricky, Calvin Heimberg, who shot great here. He shot a 47 in round 2 last year, and I think we'll probably be in for a treat again in terms of a close battle down the stretch.
Man, I sure hope so. I think you're right that this tournament sets up well for that opportunity. It's going to be interesting to see, in my opinion, though, who it's going to be with, because I don't think there's a clear front runner of who's going to challenge Macbeth for that lead position. I really think that it could be, if Calvin putts well this weekend, if Chris or Ricky figure out their bags a little bit, or Luke just, staying and hanging around. I think any of those guys could give us a kind of battle for the finish. And I hope that we get to see it on either side, MPO or FPO. FPO definitely has that capacity as well. With the Europeans here, it is a deep field. Notable exception, though, that Page is not at this tournament.
Yeah, there's a few players missing. It's not a full-on Elite Series event. We know Eagle is still out. Paige won't be here. Evelina and Henna won't be here. Kristen will. So we'll get to our picks a little bit later in the show. Here's my sneaky dark horse pick. Joel Freeman.
Great dark horse pick.
Well, I think we need to start thinking about Joel Freeman as one of the top players. He's up to 1033 in his rating. He just finished 3rd at Waco. He was 6th here last year, but had one of the best rounds in one of his rounds. He didn't play quite well enough over the course of the full tournament. He went 57, 54, 51. So you wonder if he can pick up where he left off and, erase the early slow start and, he'd be right up in the mix. So somebody to keep an eye on this weekend, I think. Nathan Queen also shot really well here last year. So a name to keep an eye on. We'll get to our picks a little bit later on, but the coverage this weekend, for those who are wondering, the post-produced coverage will be on the Disc Golf Pro Tour YouTube channel. It's going to be produced by Central Coast and GK Pro, but it will be on the DGPT channel. Live coverage for only the final round will be on the Disc Golf Network on Sunday. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to go inside the circle. We're going to make some picks. And of course, we've got an over-under. We'll be right back. The Upshot is presented by Pound Disc Golf, makers of the best bags in the sport. And I've been talking about it. The new smaller bag from Pound, the Rufus, is almost here. You can check out videos of the prototype version 1 and 2 on Pound Disc Golf's new YouTube channel. Just search Pound Disc Golf on YouTube or go to youtube.com/Pound Disc Golf, and you can check out the videos as well as an introduction to their new fly pack, which is available now. I can't wait to get my hands on a Rufus. Already, they've built so many cool new things into just the version 2 of the prototype. So go check out the video and find out more. Welcome back to the Upshot. It's time to go inside the circle. Josh, take it away.
Thanks, Charlie. 2 pieces of news today. The first one is one that I think a lot of people are going to be really excited to hear about, and I know has been a long topic of discussion for us. Winthrop University has signed a 5-year contract with USDGC to continue to be host of that tournament. I think this is really exciting news. We've talked about the risk of this tournament being moved just due to administration concerns and, whether or not it's financially that incentivizing for Winthrop to continue to host this. Jonathan Poole says that they've been more involved this last year than ever before, and they're excited to sign this new 5-year contract. Their primary concern that they're working on is trying to figure out parking for the increased number of spectators, as last year was 75% more spectators than their high in 2019. I'd imagine that just continues to go up. But as they address those certain concerns, I think of the modern disc golf scene of things like spectators, parking, facilities, Winthrop has been a historic spot, and I'm really happy to see that it's going to stay for the next 5 years.
This has been very controversial from what I've seen. The comments on this article on Facebook have been really polarized between people who are like, this is great news, love it, and then people who are saying, I hate this course so much, it's the absolute worst. Why are we doing this? I understand that. I think a lot of people really don't like the aesthetic of this course. I don't really know that there's a lot of complaining to do about the challenge of this course. As somebody who's been to this tournament many times, it is, first of all, it's better to spectate in person than it is to watch on television. There's a lot of natural beauty, like in and around the fountain and lake area. Coming up 18, it's very cool. Yes, there are some eyesore parking lots, the baseball field, don't love that stuff. And, obviously don't love all of the sort of forced OB areas in order to create challenge in what is otherwise just sort of open grass space. I still believe, and like, it would be cool in my mind if they came out and they announced this today. USDGC is embarking on a 5-year plan or whatever, 10-year plan to develop a permanent home on private land for the USDGC that takes into consideration potential significant increases in future spectator growth, etc., and prepares to move away from Winthrop. Not that I really dislike the course. I just think it could be better, and it deserves its own like really beautiful piece of property that also has the elements that Winthrop offers, which I think people tend to overlook. The reason that Winthrop makes a lot of sense: it can handle a lot of spectators. It has great facilities. Great. I'm telling you, great. Like, there's a beautiful spot for the pro shop. There's like a really nice area up around holes 1, 2, 18 where you can have vendors and places for people to get food and hang out. There's places for pros to get their own space. There's like a whole VIP building that they use with TVs on with the live stream, and they've got, food and beer and whatever. There's just not that many places that are going to offer all of those amenities. Even golf courses aren't necessarily going to have that, because you have the clubhouse area, but that's usually the only building on the property. Mm-hmm. And this place has buildings in multiple locations around the course that make it a really good fit. So that said, I think you could create those same kinds of elements on a more beautiful piece of designed disc golf property, but it would definitely be an undertaking. It's something that I would hope to see in the future. But for now, yes, 5 more years at Winthrop.
Yeah, I agree. I think that you've perfectly described the future of what I hope for from this. And the big thing I want to say to the detractors of this article: what did you want for the next 5 years? If not,
what's the alternative?
If not Winthrop, then what? It's not like we can just pop down into any old course and have the same kind of USDGC that has the prestige necessary to continue what I think is considered by some to be the most important major of the year. There are some people who have said they prefer to win this tournament over Worlds because they consider the prestige of it to be, and the history behind it to be, of more value to them. Regardless of what your take is on that, I think that this is a good, short-term solution. I know it may not feel short-term, but I think it's a good short-term solution to continue to host this, and I'm glad that we have it locked down for 5 more years. Next on Inside the Circle, UC of Discmania, UC Maresma, wins the EY Finland Entrepreneur of the Year. So EY Entrepreneur of the Year is an annual competition held by the global audit and expert firm Ernst & Young. This is found on Discmania's website. Because UC won this award for Finland, he will be competing in the EY World Entrepreneur of the Year competition in Monaco in June. It was a winner chosen extensively by an independent jury representing Finnish business expertise, which is really exciting for UC and for the recognition of disc golf to be seen in that way.
I think they should pick the winner by high stakes Texas Hold'em poker in Monaco. UC's going to need to get a new suit though. The man's suit. You got to get a new one, UC. What are you doing? If you want to go to Monaco, go get yourself a custom tailored suit, my friend. Very cool. I honestly, I know nothing about Finnish business, but it does feel like this is an appropriate award. I mean, UC has created a incredibly successful disc golf business that's both Discs with Discmania and also Disc Golf Park, the course design company.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're talking about a massive growth industry right now. So cool to see. We'll see. I don't think I'm going to give him super high odds for winning the World Entrepreneur of the Year, but good luck.
Could you imagine? What a story. That'd be such a cool story. Yeah.
That'd be wild. Just this is impressive.
It really is. This is it for Inside Circle, Charlie.
All right. Very good. Time to get to our picks for the Belton, Open at Belton. This is Silver Series event, so we're not going to do our typical picks. We're going to keep it straightforward, and we're going to just pick the winner. So there's a 5-point bonus available for a strong performance at the Silver Series, and kind of the same way the pros have a chance to get some bonus points on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. Josh, I'll let you go first. Who you got? Both divisions. Go ahead.
So I'm going to start with FPO. I'm going to take Kristen Tatar. I think she's looked excellent. She's looked consistent. And when you look at this field, I think she's one of top 2 choices. So I'll take Kristen to go on FPO. On MPO, I've said it all day. I'm not picking against Paul McBeth right now. Paul McBeth is going to be my pick to win at the Open.
I'm with you on Paul. For what it's worth, I put Paul down in my picks before you did.
Yes, you did.
Even though I let you go first here on the show. But no, come on. Like he was clearly up at the top here last year, and was only beaten out by just a tremendous final round performance from Ricky. Mm-hmm. I think that his form just looks a little bit better than everybody else's right now, and I expect him to win this weekend. So I'm taking Paul. On the FPO side, I'm taking Katrina Allen, who I think is the other logical choice this weekend.
Yep. After
Kristen Tatar. Katrina was very good here last year, and if anything, I think she's playing better right now than she was at this time last year. Mm-hmm. So I really like what I've seen from Katrina in the form she's playing in right now. So I'm taking Kat to take this one down. So those are our picks for the Open at Belton. Over under time. Josh, what you got for me?
So last year, hot round was, let me pull it up for MPO real quick. Sorry. 47, I believe, was the hot round.
That's right.
Okay, yep. So 47 was the hot round. That was shot by Ricky in the final round, and it was a 1096. Also shot by Calvin in round 2, but it was only a 1087 in that round 2. Only, right. It's still 9 points less than Ricky's. So anyway, that being said, so 47 is was the number of strokes, but there were 5 rounds that were underneath 50 strokes. 2 47s and then 3 49s. Paul McBeth owns 2 of those. Ricky owns the 3rd. So Charlie, over under 49.5 for number of strokes for this tournament.
For the best round?
For best round, hot round, yep.
Notably, not that it really affects this challenge, but par has changed. Par is reduced by 3 in MPO. Mm-hmm. They took the par 5 13th, that really weird hole through the woods that was only 400 feet, but was a par 5. And I think pros and the Pro Tour were like, we're not doing that again. So now it's a par 3. They've cleared out some of the fairway. So there's fewer, it's less of a jungle. It's still very treacherous, not exactly the fairest of fairways. But it is par 3 now, and they also reduced par on hole 8 from 4 to 3.
But made no alterations.
No real changes. Just it was too many eagles last year, I guess.
Yeah.
So, a lot of the other changes are minor. Some little OB things here and there. I'm going to take the under. I think that we'll see people shoot in that 47. I think it's conceivable to shoot at 46. Like if indeed 13 is playing a little bit easier, even though it's a par 3, we might see strokes get reduced by a stroke there. So
that's true.
I'll take the under. I think someone's gonna just shoot lights out. I think the weather's gonna be really nice too.
It is. I just looked it up. It's 70s and sunny. I was like, I was like, maybe that's a little bit too high of a number. And then I checked the weather. I'm like, ugh, this is definitely too Hi.
It's gonna be windy on Sunday afternoon, but it's gonna be windy on Friday morning. So that could play a role, but actually it looks like it's gonna be windy most of the day on Friday. So we're gonna have some wind, but then it's gonna be absolutely beautiful over the weekend. Highs around 80, sunshine, and a bit of wind for maybe the lead card on Sunday afternoon. But I think it's going to be everyone's going to be so happy to be out of the miserable cold that Waco had. I think we could see some really nice scores, especially on that Saturday round.
I'm excited. And you're doing commentary, right, Charlie?
I am. I'm going to be commentating on the Disc Golf Network with Brian Earhart and Christine Jennings on Sunday.
I'll be tuning in.
Great. Me too. All right. That is going to do it for today's show. Thanks so much for tuning in. Don't miss our subscriber bonus segment. We react to our interview with Luke Humphreys and talk a little bit about Luke's path in disc golf and what makes it so interesting and what made that interview so interesting. So if you haven't had a chance to listen to our interview series number 10 with Luke Humphreys, give that a listen. Of course, if you're already subscribed to the podcast, you'll see it in your regular feed. You can also check us out over on YouTube. Give us a like, give us a subscribe. We appreciate it. And we're looking to do some more interesting stuff with our YouTube this year. So stay tuned. Stay tuned. That is going to do it for the Upshot. For Josh Mansfield, I'm Charlie Eisenhood saying so long, and we'll talk to you next week right here on the Upshot.